Are you going to Bozeman or Yellowstone with kids? Here's everything you need to know about the Museum of the Rockies in Bozeman, Montana. Hi, welcome to Moms Make It Magical. My name is Susan, and I share tips and insights on doing travel to Disney and beyond with neurodivergent kids. In this video, I'm going to give you some information on the Museum of the Rockies in Bozeman, Montana to see if you should include it in your visit to Bozeman and Yellowstone. This museum is a good indoor option to spend a few hours learning and exploring, especially if you're headed to Yellowstone or even if you simply have dino lovers in your family. It is located in Bozeman, about 2 miles outside of the downtown area. We actually stayed at the Residence Inn Bozeman downtown, and it took us less than 10 minutes to drive over here. The operating hours are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and it's closed on major holidays. Here you can see the entrance of the museum. It was really easy to find, and it is considered part of the Montana State University campus, which makes sense given the strong paleontology program they have there. The parking lot is free and large. It was easy to walk to the front doors from there. As soon as you enter the museum, you can see where you buy tickets. You only have the option of buying tickets on site. The cost of admission as of 2025 is $20 for adults, $13 for kids 5 to 17, and under 5 is free. I do want to note that if you are an ASTC passport member, which means if you're a member of a science center or museum local to you participating in this program, you are eligible to enter for free. If you plan to visit the planetarium as well, it will cost an extra $5 regardless of what admission type you are using. If you're a homeschooling family, the second Monday of the month during the school year is actually free. You just have to register ahead of time. Admission is free for students and one chaperone. We started our visit by exploring all the prehistoric and dinosaur exhibits. I didn't know this at the time, but I learned after that the Museum of the Rockies actually has one of the largest and most important collection of dinosaur fossils in the United States. The exhibits kind of move through in a chronological order, but I do want to note that there weren't a ton of hands-on activities. There were a few areas where kids were encouraged to touch, but otherwise it was not much for my toddler. There is even a dinosaur viewing laboratory where you can see scientists putting together bones and fossils.
That is so cool.
There's also an upstairs overlook area for the Mesozoic era. You get a really cool vantage point up here, and it could be also quieter for your sensory sensitive kids, although for us it wasn't very crowded at all in the museum while we were there, so it wasn't really necessary, but it is a cool vantage point to see some of the exhibits from up high, from a little bit of a distance. I do want to note that some of the dinosaur exhibits were a little bit darker with the dark walls like you can see right now. It can be cool for some kids, or it could feel a little bit overwhelming for some, depends on your child. For us, our kids did fine, but just something to be mindful of if your kids are a little bit more sensitive to indoor exhibits. In addition to all the dino stuff, there are also exhibits that talk about the history of Yellowstone. This area was definitely a little bit quieter and more brightly lit compared to the dinosaur section. If you're headed to Yellowstone after, this exhibit connects well to Yellowstone and gives kids more context. This next section you see here is a history hall that focuses on the 1900s history of the Northern Rockies, showing their life, their tools, old setups. It wasn't super interactive, and so my kids moved through this area pretty fast, although my youngest really enjoyed seeing those older style cars. This next section was such an unexpected surprise. This was called Explore Yellowstone, a children's discovery center. It is geared towards children from infants to the age of 8, and it is super hands-on, very kid-friendly. It makes learning about Yellowstone really fun. I loved how you could see different things that you would see in Yellowstone, like geysers. You could dress up as a park ranger, go fishing, pretend to be in an eagle's nest. I also like that they turned off the geyser eruptions from 10 a.m. to noon daily, so this does make it more sensory friendly. Overall, the theming and the way kids can interact with it was just really, really well done. The last thing we checked out before we left was the Living History Farm, which is completely outdoors next to the museum building. This is open seasonally during the warmer months, and it opens a little bit later than the museum itself, but it was really cool to see. There were gardens, outdoor open space, and just less sensory overload than the museum itself. The Living History Farm is basically trying to show you what a Montana homestead would look like from the 1890s to 1910. And we met many costumed interpreters throughout our visit here, and they would answer a lot of questions for us and explain the things that we would see around the house and outside. And it was just really fun and interactive.
Wow, this is a baby room.
There was even a root cellar that you could go inside, and that was pretty cool for us. It's basically what they would use like a refrigerator, but it was pretty dark and pretty steep to get in here with like low ceilings. So if your kids are kind of sensitive to being in dark, confined spaces, you could easily skip this.
Wow. So these are, whoa.
This was a great spot to end our visit at the Museum of the Rockies, and it was a great way to just get fresh air and to reset before leaving. Overall, this museum was a solid stop for our Yellowstone trip. There was enough variety to keep all three of my kids engaged and interested, and it also wasn't so big that it was overwhelming. We've been to museums where it's just you're wiped out afterwards, and this was definitely not the case. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. More family travel videos will be coming, so be sure to subscribe so you can follow along.